Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Johnson, a 17-year-old high school senior from Detroit. I live in a rundown apartment with my dad, Mike. He's all I've got, and I'm all he's got. We're close, but life hasn't exactly been kind to us lately. Sarah, honey, how are you feeling today? Dad asks, his forehead creased with deepening worry lines. I'm okay, Dad. Just a little tired. I lie, trying to keep him from worrying more. The truth? I'm far from okay. I have this rare autoimmune disease that's killing me, and the medication I need costs a ridiculous $5,000 a month. It's a nightmare. Dad's been doing everything he can, taking on every job possible since he got laid off from the factory. At night, I overhear him on the phone, practically begging for more time to pay the bills. Mr. Johnson, I understand, but we can't extend the deadline any further, a cold voice tells him. Please, you don't understand, my daughter needs. I stop listening, unable to bear the desperation in his voice. Things hit rock bottom when I end up back in the hospital. The doctor's face is somber as he talks to my dad and whispers. Without this medication, Sarah's condition will worsen quickly. We're looking at a few months at best. I pretend to be asleep, but my heart races. A few months? That's all I have left. Dad's desperate. He even calls my mom, Linda, the woman who walked out on us years ago for some rich guy. I haven't seen her since. Linda, please, it's for Sarah. She needs this medication or she'll. Sorry, Mike, that's not my problem anymore. You can't expect me to bail you out every time. Every time? This is our daughter's life. Dad pleads, but the call ends with him slamming the phone down. I've never seen him look so broken. We try everything, assistance programs, charities, but it's all dead ends and endless red tape. Mr. Johnson, the waiting list for our program is currently 6 months long. 6 months? My daughter doesn't have 6 months. Dad's voice trembles with frustration. I'm back in the hospital when things really take a turn for the worse. In and out of consciousness, I overhear Dad talking to a nurse just outside my room. Did you hear about that new shipment at Westside Pharmacy? A bunch of that expensive autoimmune medication just came in. I see something shift in Dad's eyes, a look I've never seen before. Determined, desperate, maybe even a little frightening. I want to call out to him to ask what he's thinking, but the darkness pulls me under before I can say anything. When I wake up, everything's different. I feel better, like unbelievably better. One day I can barely move, and the next I'm actually hungry for the first time in weeks. Dad, this is amazing. How did you get the meds? Oh, I found a charity program that could help. Don't worry about it, sweetie, just focus on getting better. His explanation doesn't sit right with me, but I'm too relieved to press him. My dad's always been my hero. He wouldn't lie to me, right? As the days went by, I started noticing changes in Dad. He'd jump at every small noise, and sometimes I'd catch him staring out the window, tense, like he was expecting someone. One night, I woke up to hear him talking on the phone in a low voice. Tony, I need your help again. I can't let her run out, he whispered. Mike, man, you're playing with fire. That was way too close last time, the voice on the other end said, sounding worried. I don't have a choice. You know what'll happen if she doesn't get her meds. I pretended to be asleep when he came to check on me, but my mind was racing. What was too close? What was he talking about? The next day, I couldn't take it anymore. Dad, what's going on? You've been acting weird ever since I got better. It's nothing, Sarah. Just work stress, he replied, avoiding my eyes. Don't lie to me. I heard you on the phone last night. Who's Tony? What are you planning? His face went pale. Sarah, I can't tell you. It's better if you don't know. Dad, please. We've always been honest with each other. He sat down heavily, running his hands through his hair. I did something I'm not proud of. But I had to save you. My heart sank. Dad, what did you do? Before he could answer, there was a knock at the door. Dad froze, panic flashing in his eyes. Sarah, go to your room. Now. I hesitated, but the fear in his voice made me listen. I went to my room, pressing my ear to the door. Mike Johnson? I'm Detective Martinez. We need to talk about the night of August 15th, a voice said from the doorway. Dad's voice shook. I don't know what you're talking about. The pharmacy robbery, Mr. Johnson. We have footage of the suspect. He has a very distinctive limp, just like yours. My world tilted. Pharmacy robbery, my dad? It couldn't be true. I burst out of my room. Dad, what's going on? The detective looked at me, surprised. And you must be Sarah. I think you should hear this too. Dad looked utterly defeated. Sarah, I did it for you. The medication. I couldn't let you die. Tears welled up in my eyes. You robbed a pharmacy for me? Detective Martinez's expression softened. Mr. Johnson, I understand you were in a desperate situation, but the law is the law. We can't ignore what happened, especially the assault on the officer. Assault? I gasped. Dad hung his head. I panicked. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. As the detective continued talking, explaining the charges, all I could think was that my dad had become a criminal to save my life. How was I supposed to feel about that? The next day at school, I could barely keep it together. How was I supposed to focus on calculus when my dad was facing prison time? Then I saw Detective Martinez walking down the hallway with our principal. My heart dropped into my stomach. Sarah Johnson, can we talk for a moment? The principal asked. In the office, Detective Martinez started asking questions about my medication. It's a pretty rare drug, isn't it? Not many people in Detroit would need it. I tried to keep my voice steady. Yeah, it's for my autoimmune condition. Interesting. The medication stolen from Westside Pharmacy was the exact same type. My mind raced. I wanted to defend Dad, but I couldn't lie to the police. So I just sat there, silent and terrified. After school, I confronted Dad. Why didn't you tell me the truth? I had to hear it from a cop. Dad broke down, tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, Sarah. I couldn't watch you die. I couldn't. Part of me wanted to hug him, to tell him I understood, but another part of me was furious. You could go to jail, Dad. What am I supposed to do then? We'll figure it out, Sarah. We always do. No, Dad, we need to turn ourselves in. Maybe if we cooperate. I can't, Sarah. If I go to prison, who's going to take care of you? We argued back and forth, neither of us willing to back down. It was the worst fight we'd ever had. A few days later, we were watching TV when a news report of the robbery came on. Dad's face went pale as the reporter described the suspect, a man in his 40s with a noticeable limp. There was a loud banging on the door. Mike Johnson, this is the police. We have a warrant for your arrest. Dad looked at me, panic in his eyes. Sarah, we need to go. Now. What? Dad, no, we can't run. I can't go to prison. I can't leave you alone. Dad, please, if we run, it'll only make things worse. He hesitated, torn between running and surrendering. I grabbed his hand, my voice firm. I promise I'll find a way to help you, but we can't run. But we had to do this the right way. After what felt like an eternity, Dad finally nodded. Okay, Sarah. He opened the door, and there stood Detective Martinez with two other officers. Mike Johnson, you're under arrest for the robbery of Westside Pharmacy and assault on a police officer. You have the right to remain silent. As they handcuffed him, Dad looked back at me one last time. I'm sorry, Sarah. I love you. Tears streamed down my face. I love you too, Dad. We'll get through this. As the police car drove away, I collapsed onto the floor, overwhelmed. How did we end up here? And more importantly, how was I going to fix this mess? The weeks after Dad's arrest were a blur. Fear, anger, and determination swirled inside me. I knew I had to act, so I reached out to every local news station and newspaper I could find. My dad's not a criminal, I told a reporter. He's a desperate father who couldn't watch his daughter die because of insane drug prices. The story exploded overnight. Suddenly, we were on national news, and people were debating healthcare costs, insurance policies, and just how far a parent should go to save their child. I threw myself into activism, organizing rallies, starting online petitions, anything to help Dad. At one protest, I stood before a crowd of hundreds. The system failed us, I shouted. It's forcing good people to make impossible choices. The support was overwhelming, but not everyone was on our side. That's when I decided to expose my mom, Linda. My own mother refused to help when I was dying. I revealed to a news anchor. She had the means to save my life but chose not to. Public opinion shifted hard in Dad's favor after that. People saw him as a hero, not a criminal. Then, karma struck. Out of nowhere, Linda's rich husband was arrested for tax fraud, and suddenly she was facing financial ruin. One day, she showed up at my door, all fake smiles. Sarah, sweetie, I've been thinking. Maybe I could help your father. In exchange, you could put in a good word with the prosecutor handling my husband's case. I couldn't believe her nerve. Are you kidding me? Now you want to help after everything? Sarah, please, we're family. No, we're not. Family doesn't abandon each other. Dad and I are better off without toxic people like you in our lives. Goodbye, Linda. Slamming the door in her face felt amazing. Finally, Dad's trial came. I was a nervous wreck, but something incredible happened. The pharmacy owner took the stand. Mr. Johnson's actions were wrong, he said, but I understand why he did it. No parent should have to choose between breaking the law and watching their child die. Even the officer Dad had pushed spoke up. I've made a full recovery, Your Honor. I don't hold any grudge against Mr. Johnson. When the judge announced his decision, I held my breath. Mr. Johnson, while I cannot condone your actions, I recognize the extraordinary circumstances. I'm sentencing you to a suspended sentence and 1,000 hours of community service. The courtroom erupted. Dad and I hugged, both of us crying. Things got better quickly after that. A pharmaceutical company, moved by our story, offered me a lifetime supply of my medication. Dad found a job working for a healthcare reform nonprofit. As for me, I'm in college now, studying law. I'm going to fight for people like us, people the system has failed. Dad and I are closer than ever. The other night, we talked about everything we've been through. I'm so proud of you, Sarah, he said. You saved me, you know that? I smiled. We saved each other, Dad, and now we're going to help save others. We've cut all the toxic people out of our lives. It's just us against the world. And you know what? I think we're going to be just fine. That's the end of my story, guys. Now I've got a question for you. If you were in my dad's shoes, would you have broken the law to save your child's life, or would you have found another way? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed hearing about my wild journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We've got more intense, real-life stories coming your way. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep sharing these important stories. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to hear what you think.